Good morning, everyone. Welcome to all of you to Mass on this second Sunday of Advent. I hope you all had a great first week of Advent. It sure was a great first week of Advent here at Sacred Heart Parish. If any of you had an opportunity to stop in the church at any point this week, you may have noticed that there's something different in the atmosphere these days. There's been an electricity in the air, and it all has to do with one thing. Jesus personally visited our parish this week. And I mean that very literally. Jesus personally visited our parish this week. He was right here in the flesh, and many people got to see him. He came through something called Eucharistic Adoration. How many people had a chance to see Jesus this week in adoration? Oh, very good. A good number of you. And even if you didn't have a chance to come in this week, how many of you have ever experienced Eucharistic adoration at least once in your whole life? All right, a lot of you. That's very good. Well, for anybody here today who doesn't know what Eucharistic adoration is, or for any kids who have never heard of it before, let me explain real quick. Eucharistic adoration is when we take the big host that the priest lifts up at Mass, which we believe is really the body of Jesus, and we put it in a big gold container with a glass center called a monstrance. Then we take Jesus in the monstrance, we put him on the altar with a whole bunch of candles, and people come into the church and they adore Jesus and pray to him and pour out their hearts to him. Since people are adoring Jesus in the Eucharist, we call it Eucharistic Adoration, or just adoration for short. Now, I like to say that Eucharistic adoration is the best kept secret of the Catholic Church. And I say that because there's a lot of Catholics out there who have still never heard of it, and yet when they finally discover it, it changes their lives. People who go to Eucharistic adoration say that they feel much greater peace when they leave than they had in their hearts when they came. They find strength for the challenges of life. They find their faith growing deeper. And most importantly, so many people who go to adoration say that for the first time in their lives, Jesus comes alive for them. He's no longer an imaginary friend. He comes to life. That's the power of Eucharistic adoration. And all you do is sit there in front of Jesus in the monstrance. It's the most incredible thing in the world. All you got to do is sit in front of Jesus in the monstrance, and he literally changes you and changes your life. I like to tell people that adoration is kind of like sunbathing. It doesn't really matter what you do when you go sunbathing. If you stay in the sun long enough, you're going to get tanned. Well, it doesn't really matter what you do when you go to adoration. If you spend long enough in the presence of our Eucharistic Lord, he's going to change you. Now, when I first came to Sacred Heart 2.5 years ago, I was really pleased to find out that there was adoration going on in this parish. Back then, we had it 2 hours a week. 1 hour on Friday nights and an hour on Wednesday morning, and overnight on the first Friday. Though I sensed when I got here that people were hungering for more of it. So as a lot of you probably remember, the very first Advent I was here, I decided to have Eucharistic adoration Monday through Friday from 4 to 9. And as you probably all remember, the response was overwhelming. Every hour of every day that we had adoration, the church was packed with people. And parishioner after parishioner kept coming up to me to tell me how much they loved it. I'll never forget one woman in her 50s wrote me a letter. And she told me that even though she was a lifelong Catholic, she had never heard of Eucharistic adoration. And she came for the first time when we had it that first Advent in 2019. And she said in her letter that she cried the whole way home because she had never encountered Jesus as powerfully as she did than that first night in adoration. Another family committed to an hour of adoration a week as a family. They had never been to it. They'd never heard of it before. They didn't know what they were going to do for an hour, so the parents brought books and they brought iPads for their kids. And after their first night, they came and told me that they were in such awe being in the presence of Jesus The parents didn't open their books, and the kids didn't even touch their iPads. And when the hour was up, they wanted to stay even longer. One girl who was a junior at Monroe Woodbury impressed me very much by signing up for an hour of adoration every week that first Advent. And I was so impressed that a teenage girl would make that commitment that I went up to her to say thank you. And this girl said to me, "Father, you don't have to say thank you. I feel so much peace here. I've decided to come every single day." And that girl came every single day to Eucharistic Adoration for an hour for all 4 weeks of Advent. Well, it's been 2 years now since we started having adoration every Advent and Lent. And people are still coming up to me all the time to tell me how much they love it and how much it's changing their lives. Just the other day, I went to bless the couples who were making their pre-Cana day. And before the blessing, I was talking to them, and one young woman preparing to get married, out of the blue, she said to me, "Father, you know how we do that Eucharistic adoration during Advent and Lent?" And I said, "Yes." And this young woman said to me, "Father, it's so powerful. Would it ever be possible to have it all year round?" Little did she know that she was tapping into one of the deepest desires of my heart as pastor of this church. You see, for quite a long time now, I've had a dream for our parish that for various reasons I couldn't share until now, but I want to share it with you all this morning. My greatest dream for Sacred Heart Parish is that one day, hopefully soon, we could have Eucharistic adoration all year round. And when I say all year round, what I mean is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's what we call in the Catholic Church Perpetual Eucharistic Adoration. It's when you have adoration, not just during Advent and Lent, not just for a couple hours here and a couple hours there, not just on a special feast day, but 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. At every hour of the day or night, there would be at least one person in the church adoring Jesus, and anytime anyone felt the need to come spend time with Jesus, they could find him right here on the altar, exposing the monstrance, even at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's perpetual Eucharistic adoration. Now, very few parishes have this because it takes a lot of commitment and a lot of faith and a lot of love for Jesus on the part of a lot of people. But I got to tell you, I really believe that if there's one parish that can make it happen, it's Sacred Heart in Monroe. And every single day, I dream of the day that we will have perpetual adoration in our church. Let me tell you a little experience. I think you all know that I was in show business before I was a priest. I was a professional tap dancer. I have 4 sisters to thank for that. One of them's here right now. Sorry, Liz. And when I was 19, my dream as a tap dancer came true when I was hired to be a chorus boy in the Broadway show 42nd Street. And I wasn't in the show in New York, I was in the tour, the international tour. And we traveled for a whole year doing 42nd Street in Japan and the United States. And we traveled and toured in many different theaters in many different cities. Well, every time our touring troupe would get to a new city and we check into our hotel, the first thing I would do would be open the yellow pages to find the nearest Catholic church so that I could go to Mass. And over the course of 1 year, I got to see more Catholic churches than most people probably see in a lifetime. If you ask my castmates from back then, they could tell you all about all the different bars in all the cities in the United States. I can't tell you anything about the bars, but I can tell you lots about the Catholic churches all over the U.S. And over the course of that year, I saw all different sorts of parishes. To be very honest, I saw a number of parishes that seemed to me to be pretty dead. Wasn't much going on, wasn't much life. You didn't really feel the Spirit in them. I saw a lot of parishes that seemed to me to be good parishes, good priests, good people. I saw a lot of parishes that I would consider great parishes, great people, great priests. And I also saw a handful of parishes that I would call amazing parishes, a handful. These are parishes when, as soon as you stepped foot in the door, you could feel that the faith was alive. You could just tell that the people were on fire in these parishes. There was fervor, there was devotion, there was zeal. Conversions were happening left and right. These amazing parishes were popping out religious vocations like hotcakes. Young men and women were signing up in droves to become priests and nuns, something you don't see in the other parishes. And after encountering a number of these amazing parishes, I stopped and asked myself one day, what's the secret sauce? What's the secret sauce of the amazing parishes? What are they doing that the other parishes aren't doing? And you know, it suddenly dawned on me that there was one thing that all the amazing parishes had in common that none of the other parishes had. I'll give you one guess. Perpetual Eucharistic Adoration. They all had adoration 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In those amazing parishes, perpetual adoration was the lifeblood. It was the heart of everything they did. And all the other amazing things that they had and did were the fruit of God's blessings on them because of their commitment as a parish to have perpetual adoration. And you know, sometimes I actually wonder if God allowed me to be hired to do that show just so I could learn that lesson and carry it into my priesthood all these years later. Now, I don't need to tell all of you that we already have a pretty awesome parish. Would you agree? I mean, look as far as you will. You're going to be hard-pressed to find a parish as awesome as Sacred Heart. This is a pretty great place. You know, when I was assigned here, I didn't know anything about Sacred Heart in Monroe, and many priests said to me, David, you're getting sent to an awesome parish. And as soon as I came here, I found out how true that was. But you know, I got to say, I really believe that there's still one thing missing. There's one thing that I really believe could put us over the top. One thing that could put us on the map and make us a destination, a pilgrimage destination for people from miles around. I really believe that there's one thing that could unleash unprecedented amounts of grace on the people of our parish. And that one thing is perpetual adoration. And you know what? Not only would it pour out grace on our parish, it would pour out grace on our entire town as well. I could tell you so many stories of priests who were assigned to parishes in really bad neighborhoods where there were drug deals and prostitution happening on the sidewalk right outside of their parish. As soon as they put in perpetual adoration, all of it completely went away. Because when you have Jesus exposed in a church 24/7, the rays that come out from his Eucharistic heart extend to the entire neighborhood and the entire town. They bless the entire community, not just the church. So if we had perpetual adoration here, it wouldn't just be a blessing on the people of Sacred Heart. It would be a blessing on the entire town of Monroe. And boy, do we need blessings. So, what do we have to do to make this happen? Well, I need your help. You see, it doesn't really matter how badly I want this. I can't make this happen without you. I am completely at your mercy. And there are two things that I could speak very straightforwardly that I need from you. I need your time and I need your money. Of those two things, the more important of the two is your time. But your money would help a lot too. So, in order to make this happen, everybody, we're going to have to do a little construction. You see, up until now, we've always put Jesus out on the main altar here. And that's great from 4 to 9. But we couldn't do it 24/7 with all the masses and all the funerals and all the weddings we have. And in addition to that, Eucharistic adoration is supposed to happen in a small space so it creates a greater sense of intimacy with Jesus. And that means we're going to have to build an adoration chapel. Now, I have thought about this. I have stayed awake at night thinking about the right way to do this. And what I have decided is to take that confessional in the back right of our church, move it over to the left, and turn the confessional and the two side chapels into one adoration chapel. So we're going to knock down those two walls, fill up the entries, and we're going to have an entrance from the vestibule into the adoration chapel. Now, I've been very blessed to be helped by an extremely talented architect from our parish who's donating all of her services. And we've sent out blueprints for bids to different contractors. And as you all know, everything costs money. And as you know, these days, everything costs a lot of money. So, in order to build this adoration chapel, I'm going to need to raise $128,000. Now, before you fall off the edge of your pew, let me tell you how remarkable our parish is. You ready for this? This is the first time I've ever announced this publicly. I've only shared my plan with a couple of people in passing. Would you believe, everybody, that I've already collected from those few people I shared this idea with, $84,000. Now, what parish do you know of where a priest gets $84,000 before he even asks for money? Only here. That's why I say if there's one place we're going to make it happen, it's here. One couple who wishes to remain anonymous believes in this project so strongly, they came to my office the other day and wrote me a check for $25,000. And another family, who I know for a fact struggles to buy groceries, believes in this project so strongly they wrote me a check for $1,000. And because of these beautiful people, instead of having to raise $128,000, all I got to raise now is $44,000. I do not want to take any money from the collection basket. That's for our bills, and we need it. And I do not want to put our parish into debt. I think that's irresponsible. I want to have the money in my hands before we start the project. And so, in order to raise it, I need to humbly ask you all for a big favor. Next week, we're going to have a second collection to raise money to build a Perpetual Adoration Chapel. Would you please consider making a larger than usual donation at the second collection next Sunday? Now, I'll tell you right away, I do not feel comfortable asking for money, but I'm willing to embrace that discomfort because I believe this chapel is going to transform our parish. Now, if you struggle financially and you can't afford any more than you're already given and you can give nothing, that's totally fine. If all you can give is $1 next week, that's totally fine. However, I want to make a special appeal today to those of you whom Jesus has specially blessed, and you know who you are. If Jesus has specially blessed you financially, would you please consider saying thank you to Jesus by sharing your blessings so that he can be adored at Sacred Heart 24/7. Now, I know all salespeople say this, but I want you to believe me when I say it. This is the best investment you will ever make in your entire life. This investment will bear fruit into eternity. So I'm asking you humbly and respectfully, if you love Jesus in the Eucharist, and if Jesus has blessed you, would you please show him your gratitude when the second collection comes around next week? He will not be outdone in generosity, and many, many souls will be saved because of your offering. And besides, if we don't raise all the money in the second collection, I'm going to have to take out my tap shoes and put on a show to raise the rest of it. And I really don't want to do that. All right, calm down. Let me leave you all this morning with a little quote to take home from Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen. Fulton Sheen once said, "The greatest love story in the world is contained in a tiny white post." I firmly believe that Jesus wants to make you and me and many other people a greater part of that love story than we've ever been before. And to do that, he needs our help. Will you help Jesus pour out his love on the world? Think about that, pray about that, and say yes to whatever Jesus asks you to do. If you do, you will help his love story continue to unfold in a world that so desperately needs the love of Jesus.